Hello, I'm Dale Petrock. In this video, I thought we'd take some time, or I would take some time and compare two of the front rests that I use when I am shooting air rifles and or 22s, rimfire, and take a look at how I think about them and what I like and don't like about them. One is the Caldwell Rock BR, and the other is Grizzly Bald Eagle with the windage and elevation kind of adjustments that it has. Each one has a particularly kind of strength and weakness that the others don't, and it does a nice job in various contexts depending on what I'm doing. If I'm shooting off a bench, I tend to like my Caldwell BR. One, they're both heavy. There's no doubt about it. The Caldwell's less heavy, and it has a smaller footprint, so it works really well on a bench where space is sometimes kind of less than desirable. I have it set up with the 3-inch BR kind of rider bag, bencher's rider bag, and I use it with a rider that slides in and stays within that particular kind of slot. Things I don't like, the windage adjustment on it, though it's on the left side and so you can easily manipulate it with your left hand and not have to move off position when shooting necessarily. It has some play in it. As you can maybe see here, there's some movement up and down that can on occasion create some issues in terms of the process. The build quality isn't quite as strong as the build quality of the Bald Eagle to me, but it is very, very functional. In my case, I put thrust washers in each location where the main post comes through, and certainly with it you can adjust height by first off your growth height, which is adjusted by the wheel on this side, and it just goes up and down, and then your fine adjustments are based here, and I've got a thrust bearing that I have put in here in place of it just riding on the metal, which was originally what was done. What I usually do is I set the rest up for level and height based on how I'm running the bag, the rear bag, and where my targets are. And then I will use the rear to kind of adjust fine-tune my elevation. With the windage, I find that if I adjust this, I need to kind of rattle it. In this case, make sure all the things are down. Rattle it a little to make sure that it settles into the same place each time, but there is a little give and take on occasion. I have moved this. When it was originally came, the post the long way out and then a short elevation, but because of the way I have the rider set up on the rifles, I needed a taller one, and that kind of works fairly well with that. There is a level on the back that allows you to level it and kind of establish where you want it to be, those kinds of things, and that works really nicely. Again, it has a smaller footprint. It works well. It does a nice job. The problem I have is if I'm shooting prone, like if I'm shooting F-class or F-class style with my rimfires, reaching up to the left is sometimes a trick from behind the rifle, and so it is often not as convenient as I would like. The Bald Eagle is certainly a much sturdier unit in terms of build, heavier duty, bigger bolts. Essentially works the same. There is some, when you lock it down, there isn't as much play in it. Now the bags that are used on each one are different sizes, so they're not interchangeable bags. I have put a bag that fits a Rock BR on this one and had to remove, these come with 2 screws holding the edges down so that you can do it. They're narrower from the factory than what we see in this particular bag that I have on it. And then I do the rider on these as well. Again, I don't, in this case when I'm shooting this particular rig, these are fairly soft. I keep them fairly soft. I know there's a lot of folks that run hard bags, and I run them soft so that I can mold the stock depending on what kind of gun I'm shooting. In this case, the most recent one was one that had a 3-inch rider, so I had it set up for that process. In terms of elevation, the thing that's nice about it is that it has, turn it here and I'm caught. Like the other, like the Rock BR, it has the gross elevation and you can then lock it, but the difference is instead of pushing it up with your fingers, you can turn a knob, which is tremendously handy, particularly when you're in a prone position and you can't do those kind of activities easily. And so once you have your gross position kind of established, you lock it down and then you can do the movements with the wheel. I have not put bearings in this one like I did the other one because it comes with plastic washers that seem to have the desired effect, and so they work fairly well. I also do the same thing with this one that I do with the Rock BR, which is use this for my main elevations. They're turned up now because I don't want to tear up the piece of wood underneath. In terms of the things that I like about this one, in the prone position especially, this one allows me to be able to manipulate this much more readily. In both cases I have lubricated using various kinds of lithium grease and or white grease the various spots so that they move very effectively. Now there is complaints about the windage by other people, that it is not as smooth and as stable as they would like because of this cable, and so they'll often take this off and drill that and reverse the side that the cable attaches to. I've not found that as necessary, but I'm not shooting in cold weather. I'm shooting in fairly warm weather. And second, it really has more to do with how much this cable sleeve moves. I have considered kind of replacing it with a different system, but honestly it has been workable enough for me. If I do the slightly overwork it or overturn it and then let it settle, and then of course do the wiggle the gun slightly on the rest to kind of settle it in, it has worked fairly well for me. In terms of both, I could make do with either one in a pinch and make it work. If I was going to have to choose one at this point in my life, I probably would have gone with the Grizzly because of the Bald Eagle's ability to kind of be easier to deal with when I'm shooting more prone from a ground position. This one works much nicer from a bench. Not as handy in the prone position. This one is much more amenable to my style of shooting when I am shooting prone. Both have the adjustable stop. This one came with a taller one to begin with, and certainly I could change the length on that by using a rod and kind of moving it if I wanted it longer, etc. Not a problem. In terms of, like I said, if I had to have one, I probably would choose this one. This one is the one I use most frequently though right now, simply because I have the bearings in it, I have it set up. I use a bag rider a lot. It fits easily because of the smaller footprint in terms of travel. It's in a case in the car or in the back of my truck in the real reality. and so it just rides along in there and fits nicely. This one doesn't fit as smoothly in there. It requires more effort, particularly with this cable to kind of travel with. You have to make sure you don't pinch the cable and bend the cable or put a kink in it, those kinds of things. But it does what it's supposed to do. They both work very well, and again, I think you can make a case that each one is viable for the operations you'd want to use. But that's my take on these two particular rests. There's protector bags available for both. You can get them and set them up to however you desire and kind of make them work. So if there's any questions, let me know. I look forward to your shooting with them, and have a great day.